Iron Fist Episode 2, Shadowhawk Takes Flight. Enjoyed this episode. I feel like this one was really, a few people, like the focus of this by the end seemed to be finally, yes, I am Danny Rand. That seemed to be like the main point once we get to the end of the episode. But we see a lot of the inner workings for this, where it's like the behind the scenes, villainy stuff, where we have Ward and Joy, basically the whole Meacham family. So we have Joy, where it's like, we find out that she did still have the theory that it could possibly be Danny, but ultimately she didn't think it was by the end of the last episode, which is why she drugged him, and it was to actually get him help. It wasn't that she's being just a villain like her brother and her dad. And her dad is, of course, on the far end of the spectrum, where he's like, we're just gonna, at first, it seemed like, get rid of this kid so that we don't lose the company, and same with Ward, and that was kind of his thing. Ward was about the company. His father, especially by the end of this episode, we find out, has a lot more at stake. Probably in a more painful way, as far as not only being poor by losing the company with Danny coming back, but also probably being torn to shreds and filleted or something like that by the Hand. And I thought that was cool. They referenced the Hand really early on, like Iron Fist being the one to take out the Hand, that stuff. I thought that was really cool. And we do actually see like a split second of the Iron Fist, so we still haven't got like a ton of super epic action in this, so I'm still kind of waiting for that. But this is the first real moment of him using the Iron Fist, which was cool. So I like that, and I love the visual. I always love the visuals for it, where it's because like in the comics and the cartoons I've seen, it's kind of like glowing magic around his hand, and this is just like his hand literally glows. I think that's actually a cool way to do it. Kind of more realistic without the aura and all that stuff. But I like how they show things throughout this episode. We still didn't get a lot of the backstory like I thought we would, where we get more flashes of what happened in the past. So considering that, when even the first episode I feel had more flashbacks than this one did, I guess we are going to go for what they've done with all the other shows, where it's like, we'll get through, and then like episode 7, solid flashback episode, and that's where all the origin stuff comes in. But I still enjoyed this one, getting to see Danny inside this asylum where he's walking around with this guy. And at first it was crazy because this guy, we think he's a doctor. I thought that was actually a pretty cool scene, and then we find out he's crazy and he almost kills Danny. So I actually like that sequence, and then Danny's trying to go through and he can't use his powers because of the drugs, and of course he's supposed to be going through this 72-hour thing, and the doctor of course doesn't believe that he's Danny Rand. So he has to go through these processes, and eventually the doctor ends up believing him. The M&M's thing where he takes on all the brown ones, which super funny. It was with all the backlash for the show, it just instantly made me think people call that racist. But they totally missed an opportunity there, because Iron Fist colors are yellow and green, and I was like, they totally should have done it where Danny only eats yellow and green M&Ms, even though that limits him even more by taking out 2 colors. That still would have been awesome. It was like Danny only likes to eat the yellow and green M&Ms. I would have been like, that would have been a really cool reference, because I don't know how they could possibly, like, of all the costumes, his is the craziest. Like, it's just a big, it's like a one-piece suit, especially if you go like super old school, like they kind of did the joke for Luke Cage, where it was like the super old school outfit where he had chains and everything. The old school outfit for Iron Fist is like a collar that I swear it looks like it's 4 feet tall, and they can't do that. It can't work. It can look like the modern stuff, which is just a one-piece suit, and it does look really cool. But I don't know if we'll even get to see that, even though it's more realistic. I don't know if we'll ever get that. So I was like, that would have been cool if they did that, where it's like, Danny takes out, all the other M&Ms, or he only takes out the, the green and yellow M&Ms and send it to her, something like that. And I was like, man, they totally should have done that, because that would have been a cool reference to, his color scheme, like he likes green and yellow, that sort of deal. But it was cool. So she, of course, now believes that it is officially Danny. We have their father, who believes he believes it's Danny at the end of the episode. And he kind of switches towards the end as well. He's like, okay, this is really Danny. And then he throws in the stuff, especially when he goes to see him. He's like, I'm Iron Fist, and my job is to defeat the Hand. And it's like, oh, I happen to have some relations, which I assume would come from the whole possibly immortality thing. Maybe he's got an elixir that he stole from them, and he was supposed to do something as part of the deal, and he didn't exactly do what he was supposed to. So maybe that's how that plays out. But they were I don't know, it's hard to say, because they didn't seem upset, because they knew he left his penthouse, and they have the Hand on there. So it's really hard to say what the deal could be, because he wants them destroyed, but they don't want to kill him. because they could have. Like, they were at the house and it's like, where'd you go? So they don't want him dead, but he wants them dead, probably because, he's trapped now. And maybe that's why he had to fake his death. Like, they probably forced him to fake his death. And also, the whole thing where it's like, that was 12 years ago. He should look a little bit different from, the picture where he's like supposed to be 41 years old and it's, 12 years later and he's supposed to be 53 and he looks exactly the same. So there's got to be something extra going on there. Like, why would they cause him to fake his death? That sort of deal. So they don't want to kill him, but they do want to keep him trapped, which is why he wants Danny to defeat them. And I'm just curious how that's going to play out. And I love at the end of the episode when Ward picked up his phone and the name for his dad was Frankenstein. I actually thought that was really cool. But it was just very interesting. It's like, okay, so he wants them to defeat the Hand. And that's why I thought maybe he stole something from them and they initially worked out a deal and he got his side of it. They honored their deal, their side of it. But he just left them behind and then he faked his death and everything. And then it's like, oh, where'd you go? Like, they knew where he was and everything. So it made it a little different. Like, all right, well, he's not in hiding from them or anything like that. They had some sort of deal, and now he just feels trapped because he of course had to fake his death, so he can't go outside. And there's obviously something to that. So I'm excited for what answers we're gonna get out of that. And that was probably my favorite thing about it was, having that little bit of mystery. Like, okay, what is his deal? Like, how is he involved with the Hand? And of course, with that being tied into Daredevil and stuff like that, that just brings it a little closer together as far as the Defenders. But I thought that was really cool. That was probably my favorite part about it, was, the father, Meacham. I can't think of his actual name. All I can think of is like Ward, Joy, and then I just go with Meacham because I can't think of his first name. But that was probably my favorite portion of the episode, was just trying to figure out how he's involved with the Hand and how it seemed to change by the end, where they have sort of a copacetic agreement, but it's still not exactly perfect for him. So really enjoyed that. Of course, we get Colleen in this episode and she's being bribed by Ward to sign these papers in order to, get herself some money and say that Danny's dangerous. And of course, when she learns the truth by the end, towards the end of the episode with Joy, it's like, all right, well, I'm definitely not going to sign the papers now that I know for sure that this is the real Danny Rand. I'm not going to do something like that and just have this guy locked away. So, that was kind of her exit for this episode, but I know she'll be back, so we'll just see what happens in the next couple episodes. But I enjoyed this one. I like what they did with it. We got, minute ending action sequence. I wish it was bigger, but I know, I'm assuming at least that we're headed towards, some more epic action sequences. I've heard that the action isn't as good as it should be in this, so I am admittedly a bit worried about that, considering this is what I was really looking forward to, it because it was going back to martial arts just like Daredevil, and that's what I like. Like, Jessica Jones and Luke Cage were both severely missing in the super cool action scene department. Even the cool scene from Luke Cage, I didn't think was as cool because it was just him getting shot at and it was just like one hit. Sort of, it was kind of a Superman thing where he does the one hit stuff. More entertaining, but I was like, it's not all the kicks and flips and punches and blocks and all that really epic stuff that I was hoping for. So I hope we do get that, but I've heard some things where it's not exactly the best, even in the later episodes. So we'll see how it plays out, but so far in the first two, not really big action sequences, which I wouldn't expect. It's, very different as far as who he's going up against. Like, he's going up against, like, security guards, and it would be the same if Daredevil did that. It will be exactly the same. It would take, like, 2.5 seconds for both those guys to take out some security guards. And the same thing in this episode. He fought some random dudes in a psychiatric ward, and he took them all down in, like, half a second because they're nothing to him. So it's the same thing, but with Daredevil, it was kicked up, like, from the very beginning. It was literally, like, he fought an actual assassin in the first episode who was able to kind of go toe-to-toe with him for quite some time. So Danny hasn't had that yet. He's just fighting random dudes, and it's like, oh, that's not as epic because he's like the martial arts guy. Even above Daredevil it's Iron Fist. Like, it's him for martial arts. So that's what I'm waiting for. I know we got some hallway scene coming in this season, so I'm looking forward to that. But I still enjoyed this episode. I think it was a little bit slower than the first one, but that's because it was the introduction. It was like, here's 5 characters all at once, here's what they do, and here's this, and here's that. And this kind of slowed down, like, alright, finally, they're realizing that this is really Danny Rand. We get the introduction of, the reference to the Hand at least. So, still did some good stuff in this, and I'm excited to see where things head off now that Danny has escaped by the end of the episode, and now he's going to be hunted down so that Father Meacham, whatever his name is, I'm really going to have to remember that for the next episode. But in order for him to basically kidnap Danny and send him off somewhere until he can bring him back to fight against the Hand. So I'm assuming that's how the next episode might play out, but looking forward to it either way. Of course, would love to know what you guys thought about this episode, so please comment below, let me know your favorite parts and least favorite parts, what they were. And I definitely want to know, as far as everyone now realizing how things are with Danny, and basically all the main characters know that it's Danny, how do you think that's going to change the dynamic going into the third episode and the rest of the series? Because that was the whole point of the first one. No one believed it was him. Like, this is a kid that died 12 years ago, or like 15 years ago or something like that. So it's like, yeah, we don't believe you, but now everybody knows it's really him. I don't know if Ward is denying it or what the case is. It's kind of hard to tell with him, but we're just going to go with everybody knows that it's truly Danny Rand. So want to know how you guys think that'll affect the connection that he has with the characters in the series. Because I think with Joy, and that was obvious from the beginning, she'll be the one who's like, no, it's Danny, let's give him his company back. It's really him as our friend. Ward is an absolute a-hole, so he won't want that just for the money. And I don't think his dad cares that much either way. He would prefer if he didn't come back, especially because Danny's all open with like, yeah, I was in Kunlun, it's in another dimension. Like, he says that to everybody. Like, he doesn't hide it or anything. So I feel like if he was on the news, he'd be like, yep, I learned magic, Iron Fist, check this out. And I feel like that's exactly how that would play out. So I think his dad wants to keep Danny hidden more than anything, just so it's not revealed what his plans might be against the Hand. But like I said, we'd love to know what you guys think the interactions are going to be going forward into the next episode and the rest of the season. And of course, what you guys thought about this episode in general. So please comment below, let me know, and thanks for watching.